Did you know that the same building used to write the Constitution was the same for the Declaration of Independence? Well, if not, you're going to find out today. So let's get started. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Virtual History 360. I'm Mr. Wade, and today we are talking about the Constitutional Convention and the compromises that came out of it. What do you say we head to the location where it all went down? Here we are at the Pennsylvania State House, otherwise known as Independence Hall. Now, it got this name because this is where the Second Continental Congress met and where they signed the Declaration of Independence. Fast forward 11 years and this same building is used again as a meeting house, but this time for fixing our government. Now, I may be walking around as Thomas Jefferson, but he wasn't actually in the United States during this time. He was a minister to France. So although TJ was the principal writer of the Declaration, he was only a spectator like us in Minecraft for the Constitution. The Constitutional Convention assembled in Philadelphia in May of 1787. The delegates shuttered the windows, that means closed the windows, of the State House and swore secrecy so that they could speak freely. Although they had gathered to revise the Articles of Confederation, by mid-June, they had decided to completely redesign the entire government. There was little agreement about what form that this new government was going to take. Well, after 3 hot summer months, remember those closed windows? 3 hot summer months of equally heated debate, the delegates appointed a committee of detail to put its decisions into writing. And on September 17, 1787, 39 delegates signed the Constitution. It was an extraordinary achievement. They were tasked with revising the existing government, but the delegates came up with a completely new one. This is why we celebrate Constitution Day, like you see in this video here or to the top right of your screen. Now, although the delegates were fearful of centralized power and loyal to their states, they created a powerful central government. Although they represented wildly different interests and views, the delegates crafted compromises that found a way to work. Because of this, it stands today as one of the longest lived, and if I'm being honest, the most copied constitutions in the world. One of the fiercest arguments was over congressional representation, whether or not it should be based on population or divided equally among the states. Well, here comes Virginia. Virginia thought that states with large populations should have the most power. They said representatives work to make laws, so the larger the population, the more representation in government you should have. That didn't go over too well with the smaller states. You see, here comes New Jersey. New Jersey thought that the legislature should have one house with 2 representatives no matter the size of the population. Each state should have equal representation, and no state should have more power than another based on population. They butted heads. Well, enter Roger Sherman and the Great Compromise. They decided that they would create a 2-house legislature. The House of Representatives would have representatives based on population, giving states 1 representative for every 30,000 people back then. Today it's capped at 435 total. That's one house. The second house would be the Senate, and the Senate would have equal representation for all states, with each state having 2 senators, giving us 100 today because we have 50 states. Slavery itself was a thorny question that threatened to derail the Union altogether. Southern states wanted to count their enslaved population towards representation, which would give them more power in the government. Remember the House of Representatives, right? Well, northern states argued that no slaves should be counted toward representation since they were not considered citizens. Well, through compromise, they agreed to count enslaved Africans as 3/5 of a person, or 60% of the slave population would count towards representation. That's the 3/5 compromise. Then there was the issue of the slave trade itself. You see, the states in the North wanted Congress to have power to regulate commerce, But the states in the South opposed this power because they feared Congress would use its authority to end the slave trade. This is where the slave trade or the Commerce Compromise comes in. A compromise was reached by stating that Congress could not prohibit the slave trade until 1808, but imported slaves could be taxed. It is like the delegates were trying to say, this sounds like a problem for future us, and just pushed off the issue until 1808. But it got the Constitution signed, right? Now what about electing the president? Most of the delegates initially thought that the executive should be elected by the national legislature. Still others thought the executive should be elected by the state legislatures or even by the governors of the states, pulling together. Well, the creation of an electoral college was a middle ground between them. And while many delegates feared that locally selected presidential electors would be subject to the same sort of provincial thinking as ordinary citizens, they reluctantly came to the conclusion that it was the best they could do while still preserving an adequate separation of power between the executive and the legislative branches. I mean, be honest, it was a highly imperfect solution to a real problem, but in the context of the times, there may well have been no better alternative. Now, if you want to learn more about how the Electoral College works, you can check out this video up here, again in the upper right-hand corner. So there you have it, our tour of Independence Hall through Minecraft. What about you? Have you ever been to Philadelphia or Independence Hall yourself? If you have, tell me in the comments below. While you're there, go ahead and hit that like button for me so YouTube knows to share this video with everyone. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. If that button's red, let's turn it gray. And be sure to check out all my other videos like the ones you see to the side over here. I have other history videos, U.S. history and world history. I have civics videos, U.S. government, Constitution, right? I even have videos that are shot in 360 that you can look all the way around. So do me a favor, check them out because I know you're going to like them. All right? So for Virtual History 360, I'm Mr. Wade. I'll see you next time.